Summoner is a good class. Some people disagree, but they're wrong. Every class in Terraria is good, but things weren't always so beautiful. There was a time where Summoner wasn't such a fun and good class. Okay, to back up, there are 4 different classes in Terraria. We got Melee, the tanky one, with swords, spears, yo-yos and other close range weapons. Then there's Ranger, the best one, with bows, guns, rocket launchers and other miscellaneous shooty thingamajigs. Then we have Mage, who uses staves, books and these. Lastly, there's Summoner, the main subject of this video, a fragile commander leading an army of different creatures into battle while role-playing as Indiana Jones. Generally, I would say the classes are mostly equal. Real Logic shows some clear bias towards melee, and Summoner still needs a few adjustments, which are happening in 1.4.5, but overall I would say the classes are all equally viable, strong and fun to play as. It wasn't always this way though. There was a time where Summoner was barely acknowledged by Real Logic, where it ranged from being extremely tedious to being straight up impossible to do a full playthrough with. The first summon weapons were added in update 1.2. The funny thing is, nothing about them was mentioned in the changelog. That's because they probably didn't even intend for it to be an entire class, because they added only 3 summons! That's right, they added an entire new damage type with only 3 different weapons. The first summons ever added to the game were the slime and pygmy staffs, one of the rarest items in the game and an item you can only get near the end of the game respectively. What was the third weapon? The Frost Hydra staff, a sentry that you get from the ice chest, which you can only open after Plantera, so again, near the end of the game. Needless to say, Summoner couldn't even be called an actual class back then, and I don't think anyone tried playing the game as Summoner only. I'm convinced they were originally added only as pets that slightly aid you in combat, and there were plans to expand upon the class in later updates, because I don't see why you would code an entire new damage type for just 3 items. Wait, Tiki Armor, Pygmy Necklace and the Hercules Beetle already existed? I give up. Summoner immediately got a new addition in 1.2.1. With the introduction of the Pumpkin Moon, we got the Raven Staff, as well as the Spooky Armor and Necromantic Scroll accessory, which in 1.2.1.2 could be crafted into the Papyrus Scarab. Why did they focus on adding endgame additions for a class that you couldn't even properly play in pre-hard mode is honestly beyond my comprehension. I am too sober to understand this, and I legally can't drink yet. As far as I'm aware, 1.2.2 and 1.2.3 did not add a single Summoner related item. However, Summoner had its big break update in 1.2.4, the Fishing update, where it got 6 new weapons and 2 new armor sets, which more than doubled the amount of content for the class, I think. And this time it got actual acknowledgement in the patch notes. You could see notable improvements in making the class actually viable and playable. We got the pre-hard mode additions of the Hornet Staff, Imp Staff and Bee Armor. With the addition of Fishing, you could also now fish up the variegated Lardfish to make into a Summoner potion that increases your max summon count. Then in hard mode we got the pre-mech options of the Pirate Staff, which is very rare and very bad, and I also only learned while researching for this video that it's a reference to Pixel Piracy, a game that Real Logic published years ago and literally nobody played it. Honestly, how did I never make this connection? Maybe I should try out Pixel Piracy. Wait, what are they talking about? Oh yeah, Summoner class! You can get the Optic Staff after the Twin. And then finally, as an endgame weapon, there's the Tempest Staff, which drops from Duke Fishrod, who was the hardest boss in the game at the time. But you see, despite all of this new content, there's still a small issue. Flame Staff is not only extremely rare, but also kinda bad. And Hornet Staff is only available after Queen Bee, a decently challenging boss. So the only viable option is the Imp Staff, which you craft with Hailstone, which requires 65% pickaxe power to mine. So the only way to start a Summoner-only playthrough in 1.2.4 is to gather as much mediocre bait as possible, make a fishing rod and keep fishing in the ocean until you fish up a river shark. Then rush to hell and mine enough Hailstone and Obsidian to craft an Imp Staff. I don't think I need to explain why this is a problem for people wanting to play a Summoner. But at least 1.3 made Summoner better to play, right? Terraria 1.3, also known as the update that took really long to port to console, and I think it's probably because they switched porting studios. 1.3 was a big update because it had a proper endgame and a final boss of Terraria, something that didn't properly exist before. We got an entire endgame sequence, the lunar events, 4 pillars, each representing a class: Solar for Melee, Vortex for Ranger, Nebular for Mage, and finally, Stardust for Summoner. This being undeniable proof that Summoner is a valid class acknowledged by Real Logic. But okay, let's cover the new Summoner content added in this major update. Summoner now has its own class emblem, dropped by Wall of Flesh. Keep in mind that the other 3 emblems were all added back in 1.1, when the Wall of Flesh got first added. There's also a new buff, Bewitched, which gives you another minion slot. We got the Deadly Sphere stuff, which drops from the Deadly Sphere during the solar eclipse, and the Xeno stuff, which drops from the all-new Martian invasion. And we have the lunar items, Stardust Cell stuff and the Stardust Dragon stuff, and then the post-game Moonlords items with Stardust Armor and the Sentries that drop from the boss itself, Lunar Portal and Rainbow Crystal. Those are all really good items. The Xeno stuff is especially a fan favorite, and I understand quality over quantity. I think a small batch of new items is way better than a bunch of mediocre and forgettable ones. However, there are 2 main issues that I have with this. Number 1. It feels weird that the class got more content in a smaller patch that was just supposed to add fishing to the game over a major update that added a lot of game-defining content and features. There was not a single new pre-hard mode item, not one. There are still only 3 pre-hard mode weapons and 1 armor set. You know, whatever the people over at Relogic were smoking, I don't think I want it. It's probably illegal in 73 different countries anyway. Next up on Relogic's agenda was to add another early hard mode set. For some reason I thought the Forbidden Armor was added in 1.3, but no, it was only added in 1.3.3, so that's interesting to know. It's a hybrid set between Mage and Summoner, just like Frost is a set for both for Melee and Ranger, and while it's not the best, being able to spawn these tornadoes is cool to have as an ability. 1.3.4 was the crossover update with Dungeon Defenders 2. The Old One's Army is a good event, and if you disagree, feel free to schedule a boxing match with me. With the introduction of the Tavern Keep and the Old One's Army event came 12 new sentries. There's actually 4 and the other 8 are just the same ones with better stats. 8 new armor sets, which are all hybrid sets between Summoner and a second class, as well as 4 new accessories, which are all identical in functionality. While I am glad that they expanded upon sentries and finally added some pre-hard mode ones, that still doesn't fix core problems with the class. Finally, we get to Journey's End, where Summoner started getting the proper treatment it deserves. It was an entire new weapon type, Whips, a melee style weapon that increases minion damage against enemies you hit with them. We got the pre-hard mode Leather Whip and Snap, and the hard mode additions of the Firecracker, Cool Whip, Durandal, Dark Harvest, Morningstar and Kaleidoscope. Some people think they are a bad addition to the game. Those same people think Calamity is the best Terraria mod. Those people don't know anything about game design. Look, I've played 1.3 Summoner and I liked it. I still think the old gameplay style of just letting your minions do everything is fun, but whips add more gameplay depth while increasing the power scale of a weak and fragile class. If you don't want to play with them, that's fine, that's the beauty of playstyles, but from the moment you say they're bad, don't fit the class or shouldn't be in the game, you're just announcing to everyone around you that you don't understand game design and that you're not someone whose feedback should be taken into account for. I'm sorry, that's just the harsh truth. Ignoring my rant, we finally got new pre-hard mode weapons. Those being the Finch Staff, a pre-boss weapon you can get from Living Tree chests, and the Vampire Frog Staff, a mid pre-hard mode weapon which you get from mob drops during Blood Moon fishing. Then we got the hard mode Sanguine Staff, which you get from Blood Moon fishing again. The Blade Staff, which originally was an underground Hollow drop but got changed to a Queen Slime drop in 1.4.1. The Desert Tiger Staff, which you get from the Desert chest in the dungeon. And the Terra Prisma, which you get from beating the Empress of Light at Day. Have fun with that one! Also, the Hollow Armor got a Summoner Helmet, which is a very resourceful way of giving the class another armor set. It also has an ancient version despite not having an old sprite to base off of. Oh yeah, since waves benefit from melee speed and flask effects, gloves and flasks are now Summoner items. I think that's neat. Up next on the update timeline was 1.4.1, which added a few more things to improve the class. The Flink Staff and Flink's Fur Coat got added as a pre-boss weapon and armor piece respectively. Yes, I said armor piece, not armor set. This has only one piece, and honestly I don't mind that. It's unique and gives more incentive to mix armors or just go for defense. The Obsidian Armor, a cool looking set that didn't really have much gameplay purpose, got reworked into a Summoner set that focused on whips rather than minions. It buffed whips so much that a lot of people unironically used it till the very end of the game until it got nerfed in a patch. Plus, oh yeah, also a new whip you can get after Skeletron, that's cool. 1.4.2 was literally just for adding Steam Workshop integration to the game, which brings us to 1.4.3, an eye for an eye, the crossover update, where one game got it so much better and it's the one I like less. At least I can have these awesome as fuck skins. Meanwhile, Terraria players got another pre-boss summon, Abigail from hit survival game Don't Starve. We also got another pre-hard mode Sentry, the Houndius Shurius from the hit survival game Don't Starve. I think that's all of the summoner content in Terraria originating from the hit survival game Don't Starve. I am not making another paragraph for 1.4.4 because aside from balance changes, the only summoner related content was the war table being reworked to be a buff station that gives you an extra sentry slot. And that's the entire history of every summoner item ever added to Terraria. Or at least I think. I've done a pretty extensive amount of wiki diving for this video, but I wouldn't be surprised if I missed something. Either way, as of today, there are 47 summon weapons in the game, with at least 9 more being teased for the next update. Not to mention all the armors, accessories and other miscellaneous content. It took years of update to reach this point, but Summoner went from being an afterthought that you can't do much with, to being a very fun, powerful and fun favorite class. I don't know how to end this video, so I'm gonna tell you to play a game my friend is working on. Go play After Hours, the RPG Overtime! Ow! Ow, shit. my hand! It's a short game heavily inspired by RPGs like Five Nights at Fuckboys or the Mario and Luigi series, with lots of stupid banter and internet humor.
I was never informed there was a gun.
What do you mean you weren't informed there was a gun? I told you about the gun 3 days before we came here. It was on the counter, right next to your bedroom.
I don't remember you telling me this.
Of course you don't, because you wear a fucking coat on your head.
Wow, that was uncalled for.
I'm a bit biased because it's a game by my friend, but it's genuinely a really fun RPG that I laughed at multiple times. It's still in development, so there's some things missing and the balancing isn't the best, but it's been fun playing it and giving feedback on what should be improved. I also make a voice cameo in the game, so look out for it and see if you can recognize my role. Download the game! The itch page should be in the description. That's it from me today. Now I need to return to Shadow and not upload anything for the next 50 years. Bye bye!
Return the monkey.